Welcome back to another video, guys. In today's video, I'm going to be VOD reviewing Khanada and Cooper. They recently really popped off in this last week of FNCS, and I'm going to be VOD reviewing their win from this week. They ended up coming fourth, which is a really big accomplishment, and this win is going to be absolutely crucial, and there's a bunch of things you guys can learn from it. Before this video gets started, I do want to say that the game audio of this recording did happen to be corrupted. I'm sorry, I tried to fix it, but there wasn't much I could do, so bear with me on that. But without wasting any more time, let's hop right into this video. So guys, now we're here about to VOD review the game of Khanada and Cooper, and the first thing I want to point out that these guys do is they genuinely are really good at marking the spot on their drop map where they need to like deploy their glider. And let me show you guys exactly what that is. So as you can see, they've marked this area right here, and they obviously land at the Nitrodrome. And what that does is it marks them a place from their drop map that they've created or they've bought. It marks a place where they need to deploy their glider in order to get the best drop for their POI. Obviously, they are uncontested at the Nitrodrome. However, that's still a really good way of practicing getting the best landing off spawn. And of course, since they are uncontested, that definitely does play a role in their success. That's definitely a crucial aspect of how they're able to do so well. Now, the first thing these guys do when they land is they focus on getting materials quickly and getting loot really quick. They land on opposite sides of the POI, as you guys can see, and what that does truthfully is it allows them to have a really good system of looting really quickly and getting a lot of loot in a very short amount of time. As you can see, Khanada's looting a bunch of chests in one area of the POI, and then Cooper is on the complete other side using complete different tactics to loot and get mats really quickly. What they both do also that's really helpful is going to be the fact that they farm metal before any other material. As you can see, Cooper here has 300 metal before he has any other amount of that material in any other material. Now basically what that means is that they're focused on getting metal first because it is the most important material in the game. That's a crucial aspect that many of you guys should try to follow. Another really good thing these guys do is they use these shield cactuses to get their shield up rather than using stuff like minis and big shields. This is really good because it saves them many different medical items throughout the rest of the game, and it allows them to stock up on them for when they need them later in the game. So when Cooper and Khanada decide to rotate out of the Nitrodrome POI, they are pretty stacked. They have tons of materials, tons of really good loot, and they have really good meds as well. The other big thing that I want to point out is that they're also carrying nitro splashes. Those are going to be really helpful for the rest of the game in terms of rotation, getting into fights, pretty much everything. So this is how they rotate. And of course, as you guys can see, their POI is pretty center map, so that means they don't really have to rotate too much in order to get a really good spot in the future zones. However, what this allows them to genuinely do is it gives them a really good opportunity to base up and a really good spot for Surge. As you guys can see, they're rotating here towards restored reels, and they do see a base up ahead that they want to try and interfere with in order to get their Storm Surge. What they're trying to do here is they're kind of trying to plan out how they're going to engage this. As you guys can see, the base is only up on one platform, so if they break that down, ideally the opponents up there will take some fall damage and they can win the fight. So obviously they rotate up here, and what I want you guys to notice is the fact that they're crouching. They're not making too much noise and they're going right for this bottom part. So, if you guys are trying to, sort of double key in the same way, go down to this bottom part, try to break that out, and then look for the offensive advantage in that fight. Now I'm just going to let it run through right here. This is an advantage of a really good mid-game fight. It's a smart one right here, really. What they're doing is they start off with the offensive advantage, and they're able to get the eliminations. As you guys can see, two of the best fighters in the game, Khanada and Cooper, they're able to really effectively get these eliminations onto these two players. Once they get those eliminations, they kind of have a bunch of extra loot that they can stay around, and that's what they decide to do. They pretty much decide to base up around this area, kind of use all the materials that they have to build a big base. They're very equipped to med up, make sure that they have all the health and shield that they need before they rotate out through the next zone. What they then decide to do is pop the nitro splashes, pick up the other ones that the other team they eliminated has, and then they try to rotate up towards the hill where that team that they had just eliminated was from, and they try to take that base and base up for themselves. This is going to help them get Storm Surge. Obviously, they just got some from the fight, but there's never too much Storm Surge, and it's a really good idea for them to have a solid base in order to get Storm Surge in the rest of the game. As you guys can see, they're just going to be getting tags here for the next period of time. For this zone, they're also in a really good spot. As you guys can see, they're pretty much in the middle, and they're just going to be chilling up here trying to get Storm tags. As the zone keeps going, they pretty much just stay up here, not too much being done. Obviously, they're going to try to rotate again as the zone pulls. On the map right here, you guys can see that they are not going to be in the center of this zone. They're going to be on the edge near the restored reels area, and they want to try to rotate towards the center of the zone. This is a really good thing that this team does, is they go to this river near the underworld biome, and they try to get as much of the dash effect as they can and use it to rotate. Obviously, they are rotating on the dead side here as well. If you guys can see the map that I'm going to show you right here, the dead side of the map is going to be this section of the zone because it is close to the edge of the map, and most of the teams are going to be in this congested side of zone over here, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to rotate onto the dead side of zone through this path right here, which is what they're doing. They're kind of near this Nitrodrome, Pleasant Piazza area, trying to rotate this way. And as they rotate, they do decide to refarm all the materials they may need, maybe get some Storm Surge tags on anybody in a POI that they can try to focus on. They're constantly on the move and constantly looking for tags. Those are the two things in this mid game that they're realizing. And then this is a really big important part of their game. Think about where they decide to base up right here. I'm going to go to drone free for a second. Khanada and Cooper right here are based up on a slurp cactus and then also this big nitro ring. That's crucial because this ring allows them to have mobility in order to rotate, and then this cactus allows them to have pretty much infinite shield whenever they need it. This is a really good spot to base up, and as they decide to do this, it's a really smart idea basing up in this area. And obviously they make it to have a couple of layers so it won't break down if somebody just tries to try and chop them down or shoot them down. But as you guys can see, this is a really good spot, and they're pretty much just going to be staying here and trying to get Storm Surge tags. I also want you guys to notice that they both have long-range rifles. One of them has a thermal scope, and this is a really good way they're able to get Storm Surge tags. They're using these long-range rifles really effectively to get tags on people really far away. That's why I'd recommend you guys definitely carry one of these rifles at least per team. And they pretty much stay here for a long portion of the late mid-game and the start of the end game because it's a really solid spot on elevation, and it's also really center zone. So as you guys can see, it's really close to the center of the zone. It's a great spot to be in this zone. And obviously they got a little bit lucky here with the zone pull. They got a half and half zone, and that's a really good thing for the end of their game because it's going to put them in a really good position to do well as the zones continue moving. And as you guys can see right here, the half-half zone has pulled to the opposite side of the map, so they need to make a rotation here, and what they decide to do is use their Flowberry Fizz, get that Fizz effect, and then use the Nitro Ring to rotate across the zone. This is examples of two things, which is using natural mobility stuff such as that Nitro Ring, and then also basing up on slightly elevated layers where they're going to have a solid position for the rest of the end game. Obviously, they're going to hit the refarm on that tree, and they're just genuinely going to be in a solid position right now. I'd also like to highlight how good the position they're in is right now. They are on an elevated layer in the zone that's about to pull, and they also rotated early. So all of these teams on this side of the zone still are yet to rotate, and they have to rotate as the game continues on. As you can see, there's a bunch of teams all around the area that are going to have to rotate, and they're going to be easy picks and easy eliminations and Storm Surge tags for Khanada and Cooper that are all the way over here. And this team right here of Tahi and Revise does try to base up right next to them and maybe trying to get a refresh. So what happens right here is Cooper and Khanada are trying to play defensive. They don't really need any eliminations. As you can see, they both have a lot of materials, really good health and shield, and they have really good mobility items as well. They basically just stay here trying to get more eliminations and surge tags if possible. And then they decide to do something which is very interesting. They decide to rotate early in this next zone, which is going to be the first moving zone. They decide to rotate early, which is against a lot of what the coaches are saying recently. A lot of the really good coaches in the meta right now are saying try to rotate late during the end game. However, you still can rotate early in the end game. You just have to do it in the early zones of the end game rather than the later zones, because in general, rotating late is going to be much safer throughout the rest of the game. So as you guys can see here, they do rotate early and they get beamed for it. They get punished, as you guys can see right here. They get into a bad position. They're getting sprayed, and it's actually surprising how they were able to escape the situation, because this is something that happens when you guys are rotating too early. And, you know, they base up, they're trying to focus on staying alive, which is the main thing. Those teams were probably just looking for surge. If they were looking for elimination points, they would have kept spraying, and luckily they're able to get out of it. They're able to, you know, sort of box up, stay safe, and as they're staying safe, they're able to med up. But they do have to sacrifice one of their Flowberry Fizzes in order to get a lot of their shield back. However, they're based up on the low ground right now. They have their health and shield back, and they're in a pretty solid position. So right here, they decide to rotate using their Nitro effect, and what they decide to do is rotate onto the low ground. The low ground, in my opinion, this season is probably one of the better places to be, especially during the early stages of the end game, simply because it gives you the ability to focus on not wasting too many mats in the early stages of the end game. And as they keep playing, they are able to have a successful base without wasting too many materials. And as you guys can see, they're scouting right here, expanding their base for a good rotation. They did happen to pull the zone towards their side. However, what's really interesting is that they still decide to use their Nitro Splash and their Flowberry Fizz right here in order to get a good rotation. Their goal right here is to find out how to get inside of a team's box, maybe get a refresh as well. But instead, they decide to use their Nitro and their Fizz effect and then rotate onto the mid-ground layer this time. Now, in my opinion, this is going to be something that I'm trying to explain. I'm going to go back and show you the layers of this endgame right here. You guys can obviously see there's going to be high ground up there. This is going to be Booga and Aviv. Then there's going to be the mid-ground layers with all these people, including Khanada and Cooper right there. And then there's going to be the low ground. This is going to be Clicks. This is going to be, you know, Noisy. This is going to be everybody else down here. This still isn't ultimate low ground, which is kind of down here. However, nobody really wants to play ultimate low ground, considering that there's a lot of elevation in this final zone. When there's elevation in your final zones, I'd recommend that you play mid ground. It's going to be the best layer for the final zones, and it allows them safer rotations in case a zone pulls up or down the hill. There's not going to be too much in their way. So in general, zones with elevation require you to play mid ground in order to succeed the best. They're still going to be using their Fizz, of course, to get their shield back up, get the mobility effect. And of course, they have the Nitro effect as well. That's going to help them out quite a bit. And I also want you guys to notice something else. They still have their dash effect from the river near the underworld biome. They still have those because those are really viable movement options. It's going to be natural rotation that doesn't expire as long as you don't use it. This type of rotation I really enjoy. It's kind of like hop from place to place, switch up layers. Ideally in the end game, you try to have mid ground, but my recommendation in general is to start on the low ground in the earlier stages of the end game and then work your way up, and ideally by the end of the game, try to get the high ground. That's a crucial way of playing and a really effective tactic. As you guys can see, they're trying to get into a team's box here. They are slightly low in materials. They only have around 62 builds and then 73 builds, so that's around 135, 140 for the whole team. But as you can see, they're still trying to play it safe. They have the ability to rotate zone whenever they need to, and they know that. They still use their Nitro effect. They use their Flowberry Fizz as well. They try to get up onto these mid-ground layers where they are right now. Yes, they're playing low ground, but they're playing low ground on a higher elevated surface, which makes them be playing mid-ground. And as you can see, they're trying to rotate really effectively here. They get on a really good mid-ground layer. This is slightly closer to the high ground areas, as you guys can see right here. Where they are right now is in the mid-ground layer, but it is decently close to the high ground. There's only around 2 teams in between them, this team right here, and then this team right here fighting this team on high ground. As they rotate, I want you guys to notice how effectively they're rotating throughout the mid-ground. They're in a really good position, not on this ultimate low area down here. Khanada and Cooper aren't all the way down here. They're going to be all the way up here, as you guys can see. And as they rotate, they know when to stop and to box up. They're in the zone and they're pretty close right now. They're close to the Storm Eye, and they know that we don't need to rotate if there's no need. So they decide to stay in this box right here, make sure that they don't have to leave for any reason, just kind of chill. And they use their abilities that they have, such as the dash effect and their Nitro Splash and Flowberry Fizz, to rotate. And now, as you guys can see, something that's really important, they are looking for the high ground. So I'm going to show you exactly what Cooper is doing right here. Cooper is shooting at an enemy team while Khanada is looking at the high ground to maybe try and take it. What they're doing is they're setting themselves up to take height by getting a highly elevated position close to high ground and looking maybe for a way to sneak up onto them using their mobility items and maybe get a surprise elimination. And that's pretty much exactly what they do. As they spray this team, they decide, hey, we're just going to sneak up with our abilities. We're going to try to take high ground, and they decide to go fight on the high ground area. Khanada does take some damage, but Cooper is doing a great job of fighting this team using his mobility. He's able to eliminate these guys right here. He kills Reciprocal. And obviously Khanada is knocked right here, but Cooper is able to successfully find a good path to the rest of the zone and go back and maybe Rez Khanada. This is a really viable thing that can happen in the end game, and a lot of teams do it. He's able to Rez Khanada, as you can see when I speed it up. And basically what they're doing from here on out, there's 9 people left, 6 teams left. Their goal right here is to stay alive, med up, make sure they're equipped for the final couple fights of the end game, and hopefully secure the win. And one thing I want to point out here is the explanation of their roles right now. They're going to obviously be IGL and Fragger. However, what's crucial is to see that they're going to med up, and then afterwards, constantly, one person is going to be spraying down at the people on the lower layers. As you can see right here, it's Cooper. Cooper's just going to be spraying down while Khanada is focused on the rotation aspect of the game, or vice versa. They're going to be switching roles, something I went over in a recent video. They're going to be switching roles when needed, that one person's going to be tarping, one person will constantly be spraying. But the crucial point is that one person is always applying pressure onto the layers below them as to not lose high ground, and as also to weaken the rest of the lobby for the rest of the game. As they move throughout this endgame, they're trying to get as many eliminations and tags as possible, and they do a really good job of that. And then, as you guys can see, they don't really have too many items for heal off, which means that they're going to have to try to close out this game with a fight. So this means that they're trying to weaken the opponents on the low ground as much as possible. So as you can see right here, Cooper decides he's going to med up. They're going to drop the Flowberry Fizz to make sure they're full health and full shield. And now their goal is simply to drop down and eliminate the remaining players. Cooper obviously drops down, and this does become a bit hectic because in these congested endgame situations, it's tough to realize where the enemy players are and how the best way to eliminate them is. So it's obviously going to be Ritual and Reet, another really good fighting duo. But I'm just going to be showing you guys this in drone free right here. As you guys can see, Cooper and Khanada are on the high ground, elevated up way higher. And then Reet and Rituals are down here. Also pretty decent health and shield, and also pretty decent mats as well. Ritual is going to be having 16, and that's pretty much a really big benefit. Obviously, Khanada and Cooper don't have that many as well. Cooper's got 0, Khanada's got 2. Now, basically, this comes down to a aim off, essentially. Whoever has the better aim, whoever can hit their shots, that's going to be who wins the game. So as we let this play out, you can see Cooper and Khanada trying to shoot in and get into their box, and they end up actually doing that. Cooper gets in, gets a big tag onto Ritual and Reet. They're both extremely low, but Cooper does get knocked. Obviously, Rituals gets knocked out because of the zone, and he gets eliminated. Falls down, Reet's in zone, nothing to really help him out there. He's really low health, and he gets eliminated from Khanada right here, and that's going to be what secures them the game. This was a really good game from Khanada and Cooper. I know that it was kind of tough to follow in the way, and then the fact that I talk so fast. If you guys want me to sort of work on that, let me know in the comments down below. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel down below, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.